Good evening, everyone. Live and direct from East Austin, Texas, USA. Red Bluff Studios, in collaboration with Red Salmon Arts and the City of Austin, presents Coahuilteca historian Gary Perez, bringing back the pieces of broken tradition, a lecture on the White Shaman rock art cave painting. Gary Perez.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. I want to thank Red Bluff Studios for hosting me this evening. Welcome to all of you. I'd like to send out a shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom, whom I met recently after 55 years. What an amazing experience. We are here to talk about the White Shaman Mural. I'm going to go ahead and just get right to it. We can start the PowerPoint right away. This is the White Shaman Mural, courtesy of the Whitty Museum. And it's a 2,000-year-old piece of rock art that I've been working on for coming up on 7 or 8 years. And it tells a very interesting story about the creation of time, and it involves geography, which we're going to look at. It involves astronomy. And but first I'd like to mention that this rendering that we're looking at was created by Michael O'Brien, a resident of Austin, Texas. An interesting thing about this rendering is that he took the rock art on a curved and split-face surface, and he pulled the image off studying photographs taken over the last 40 or 50 years by this guy by the name of Jimmy Zingraf. And what he did was he painted it on a flat surface. What he didn't realize what he was doing is that he was giving everything equal space in his own rendering, that we were later able to use inches to miles. So the painting is geography, and it's a map of Texas, and so that's what we're going to look at here right away. One thing I'd like to mention, here in Austin, I was involved in a dive over 20 years ago to help save the Barton Springs salamander, and there's an exhibit over at the Beverly Sheffield Center at Barton Springs. It's called Barton Creek Time Stream, and it just mentions myself and many other folks who've contributed to the protection, restoration, and of the Barton Creek and Barton Springs. So back to the painting. I'm going to use my cursor here to highlight a couple of the most important items we're going to look at today. This black line, where it connects to this white line and goes all the way across the painting, is considered to be the ecliptic of the sun's path along the sky. This character here to the left is the sun god, who, after rising, kills Venus, the morning star, represented here as this deer. The story begins that the sun went into the underworld and rode the deer through the underworld over to the very first sunrise. And I think those are some of the most important part of what this painting is trying to tell us about this journey through the underworld to the first sunrise. The archaeological designation of this painting is 41 VV124, 41 for the state of Texas, VV for Val Verde County, and 124 is the site number. It's about 2,400 years old, give or take. Radiocarbon dating. It's 8 by 4 meters large, and it sits overlooking the Pecos River, off of a shelter looking over the Pecos River as the Pecos enters the Rio Grande River. One of our initial thoughts is that this part of the painting circled in red and then blown up in front of you was thought to be the edge of the Balcones Escarpment here, because these black dots here and here and here looked equally spread apart. The initial thought was this was San Antonio Springs, New Braunfels, or Comal Springs in New Braunfels, San Marcos Springs in San Marcos, and Barton Springs in Austin. So what we did was we hired this young man, this GIS expert, geographic information expert, to superimpose this particular icon over a map of Texas along the Balcones Escarpment, and this was the result. Indeed, the painting seems to line up with the blue dots, San Antonio, Comal, San Marcos, and Barton Springs. We went on to use the same method to identify other geography in the painting. We discovered places like Jacob's Well, Enchanted Rock, the Devil's Sinkhole, Sonora Caverns, and one very particularly important place in San Angelo, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. One of the things that the evidence, the historical evidence that suggests that we're looking at a map of Texas is this article written back in the 1960s for the University of Incarnate Word about this guy by the name of David Orchard who witnessed 5 Poncas visiting the Olmos Basin area. And they said that on their trip from Ponca City to Oklahoma down to the Peyote Gardens, that at 4 places they had to stop and perform different ceremonies, but that the last one in the Olmos Basin was the most important. So that lends credence to this hypothesis that the painting is a map of Texas and other things. So I'm using the bottom center of this painting to show how the locations in the painting go from left to right, the sunrise on the left, and then the deer, and then these other locations clear across from left to right, to the right of the painting. And as you can see, the 4 fountain springs here, the sunrise here. Let me see my computer. Give me a hand here. Here is a workup of these locations as across Texas. So if you're standing at the White Shaman Mural and you're looking in northeasterly, all of the locations that we've discovered in the painting line up like they do geographically. In other words, if you're standing at the painting and you're looking to the far left, you're going to see the sunrise in San Angelo, and then the solar dart, which would be the deer, the morning star at Paint Rock. And then the center of the painting would be Menard, and then your 4 fountain springs are here to the right. So the painting jives geographically with respect to where you're standing to everything else, again, in the geography. One of the most important, most critical parts of the painting is this description of a river and the sky. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the San Antonio River as it flowed naturally. Back in the 1700s, This is a map from the 1700s. And from Houston Street all the way to Gunther Street, it has this unusual U shape, and it comes up and it curls down this way and then down, and it checks to the left again, and then checks downward, and then checks up again, right? And just east of that is Mission Valero, or the Alamo. So I'm removing the graphic behind it, and you can see the outline of the river here, and all the Tex-Mex restaurants that you can find along the San Antonio River. Boom, boom. And so, but here I've kind of pulled a funny on you to change this. We're looking at the river now again this way, and these are not the Tex-Mex restaurants that line the San Antonio River. What we're looking at now is the constellation of Eridanus. And Eridanus, the name Eridanus is Greek for a celestial river. Interestingly, the way that the Greeks saw the skies similarly to the way that we did too. So here they are right next to each other. And if you want to follow along with Eridanus, I'm going to go down the San Antonio River and show you that it comes down this way, and then it kind of scoots over to the left, just like here. And it comes down, it does a little horseshoe thing. Comes up, it does like an M kind of thing, sharp, and then downwards, and then it checks up to the left, and then goes down again, just like in the constellation, and comes back up again. There's no way that, in my opinion, that could be mistaken as a coincidence. That is just the way that creation made the stars in the sky and the San Antonio River. So, once a year at winter solstice at midnight, the San Antonio River and the constellation of Eridanus meet end to end at the Gulf of Mexico, all the way up to the constellation of Orion, quote, where our ancestors dwell. So here is a Starry Nights graphic of the constellation of Eridanus. The graphic includes a little bit of drawing to kind of fill in the space and the constellation provided by Starry Nights program. And here it is in the painting. So back to the geography, a little bit of the geography. We're going to move forward over to the sun god in the rock art. Interesting about the rock art itself is that the black color and the entire length of the painting was laid down in black first, and then it was laid down in red. Okay, so what's critical to that? So black represents the cold and the dark and the wet, the darkness, even the stars, because they're at night. They come out at night. The red represents hot, sun, warmth, knowledge, power. And the way that this painting was painted, it was there to tell you about a moment in time. The difference between the color black and the color red identifies moments in time, from darkness to sunrise, or as we will see, from things far away in the sky at night that get closer and closer and become more visible, as you'll see here. So once again, the black was laid down first, and then the red. Okay, and if you'll notice, to his right hand side, our left, he has an atlatl in his hand. Well, that's sunlight. That's the sunlight that kills the morning star, Venus, shortly after the sun's arrival at the place called Dawn Mountain. And if you look to your right, this black character over here to your right seems to develop, it's black, so it's at night, And then suddenly, as the sun rises, or the power of the sun affects it, it seems to develop a tail. Interestingly. So, here is that sunrise mentioned in the rock art. It takes place in San Angelo, Texas at winter solstice of every year in between the buttes off of Highway 67. My relatives and my family we've been going there for years now, celebrating that sunrise, that moment in time depicted in the painting. If you were there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you would have seen Venus come up the middle of the buttes first because it's along the ecliptic. And then you would have seen the sun rise behind it and wash away its light, just like it's being told in the painting. If you were to take away the sunlight, this is the Starry Nights program again, this is what you would have seen. You would have seen Venus ahead, once again, ahead of the sun, and then on December 21st, 2012, and then the sun's light washing Venus away. That's at 12:37. Exactly 5 hours later, in a little town called Paint Rock, a solar dart appears in between some rocks and creates this image of a sun dagger piercing what we say, Coahuiltecos say, is the heart of the deer. So you have two major events, sun events, a sunrise and a solar dart, a morning star, and the sun that rises to kill the morning star taking place in the geography like it takes place in the sky, like it's noted in the painting. Now let's look at the little guy that develops the tail. If you'll notice that it sits on the ecliptic. Remember, I was describing this white line on the ecliptic. And we're following this red line over here to the right side of the painting, over to these three dudes right here, these three Y symbols. And what's also noticeable about these is that they've got color here, here, and here. So what is this trying to tell us? This guy is on a path along the ecliptic passing through these Y symbols. Notice that it passes more so through the center Y symbol right here along the ecliptic. Right here. Passes through here. It misses it just here, but the line does go through this Y symbol here. Okay? So what are we looking at? We're looking at two things. Number one, we're looking at the constellation of Orion and or Orion's belt, the three stars of Orion. And here is the moment that we're talking about. This is that comet, we're going to call it a comet now, that appeared on October 6th of 2018. The comet, along with Orion, rose in the east. And as the night skies turned, that comet swept across each of those three stars in Orion by the time the sun came up the following morning. And we were fortunate enough as a people to address the matter in ceremony and rejoice over this discovery in the painting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go to Starry Night's program real quick to show you that moment right here. And as you'll notice, let's zoom in. I'm going to zoom in. There we go. You'll see, here's the comet. Here's the comet. Right there in the east. Okay? Just as it's about to cross, the tail is about to cross each of the three stars of Orion, the belt of Orion. But what about the ecliptic? Remember the Y it was passing through? The Y that it's passing through is the constellation of Taurus. And I'm just going to back up the comet over to the ecliptic like it shows in the painting. Now the reason why it has its tail is because obviously it's getting closer and closer to the sun. So that's why the color black went first and the red color went second. Because you'll see the star in the sky first, what you think is a star coming at you, and then as it gets closer to the sun, the radiation of the sun creates its tail.
Oh.
And so that's why you have the black first and the red second as the tail is developed. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. And back to the painting again. We're learning that the painting is many things, but primarily the painting is telling us, at least to our people, that it's a story of creation. And all of the things that are involved in creation, every lunar eclipse, every solar eclipse, every meteor shower, the meteor showers throughout the year, every sunrise, every sunset. You know, it's a creation story, it's a map of Texas, it's astronomy, and it's math. The math is teaching us that there are things yet to come: an annular eclipse, planetary conjunctions, full moons. It tells you where to examine these things, where to stand, what to see. You know, if we're ready for it, what our language is trying to tell us. Our language, our South Texas and northeastern Mexican language. It's telling us how to live out our lives according to the universe and its plan. It gives us the freedom to think outside of the box that we as Americans have been taught to contain ourselves. It gives us an opportunity to be ourselves without having to take back the land, without having to get in a fight with anyone or among ourselves. It's my opinion that this painting and the things that it's telling us for our future is what is eventually going to settle the future in our lives. I want to thank once again the Red Bluff Studios and Danielle and Deborah and everybody who put this program together tonight. I want to thank my mom for coming back into my life, and thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. This is the first part of a series bringing back the pieces of broken tradition. We will have another installment in about a month. And so please tune in. Thank you very much for watching. We will rebroadcast this tomorrow evening, Thursday, October 29th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you so much.